Do you ever wonder, why is it that some children shy away from challenges, or maybe they crumble at the very first signs of a struggle? Or why do some kids refuse to try a new activity? Or do they have a history of quitting various activities if they didn't immediately excel? How can we help kids who have low frustration tolerance? In other words, how can we help the kids who tend to give up really easily? Or you might be wondering, why does my student have this tendency to be so perfectionistic and self-conscious that he or she gets paralyzed in their own progress? Well, first of all, how a child takes on challenges goes beyond being motivated or resilient. So a person's ability to overcome setbacks, it's directly related to having a growth mindset. I'm super excited to talk about how we can set our kids up for success. I mean, not only success in one area, but just to be able to have general success in life, to grow up to be happy and confident and well adjusted. Well, I think part of that is instilling a growth mindset in our kids. In other words, how can we instill the quality of a can-do attitude, or grit, or perseverance, or being able to not feel like a failure, but to be able to grow and learn from mistakes and consider them as lessons learned, and to come out stronger and wiser on the other end. So this is a big topic. And to sum it up, I'm going to call it How to Instill a Growth Mindset in Your Child. My name is Jessica McMurdy from playitforwardtherapy.net, and I'm a pediatric occupational therapist, a parent, a teacher, and a coach. And I'm super excited to talk to you today about growth mindset and just have a conversation on how we can really instill these life skills for our kids to not only survive, but to be able to thrive no matter what happens. Or if you're a teacher, how can you help instill and nurture a growth mindset in the students in your classroom? As a parent, what can we do at home to help teach our kids resilience? And how can we model that as the adults and caregivers in their life? As therapists or clinicians, when we see a child struggling at the very start, how can we model and how can we adjust the activity? How can we accommodate? How can we teach those life skills that they can learn how to be resilient and develop the right social emotional skills to help them be happy and confident, not only during our sessions and for the time that we work with them, but something that they can take away once our sessions are over. How can we achieve that? This past year, there were so many lessons to be learned, not only on a global level, but also on a personal and professional levels too, for all of us. No matter what stage, kid or grown up, it was a tough year. And the truth is, there's always going to be circumstances beyond your control that will impact whether you're able to attain your goals, regardless of how hard you try. So there are circumstances that happen that it doesn't matter our level of effort. However, there are also times when you might really surprise yourself at your own fortitude, your resourcefulness, your determination, and your perseverance that really enabled you to come out on the other side of a situation even stronger and wiser. And it may not be immediate, but eventually to have that perspective of lessons learned. So the key is really cultivating the right mindset, which I think is the first step on the road to both personal and professional success. And you've probably already come to realize that it's not always possible to control the circumstances around you. However, you always have the choice of how you control your response to those challenges. So we can't control what necessarily happens to us, but we can change our response and we can adjust our behavior. And it really takes some effort, it takes some hard work, it takes some mental flexibility, and definitely a willingness to try a new approach or a new way of doing things. So in 2020, quarantine presented a multitude of unprecedented challenges in how we could do our jobs, how we would typically run a business or participate in online learning for students, adults, for everyone. And I think the majority of us found ourselves in a situation of distance learning or working remotely, all while having to juggle multiple responsibilities at the same time. So let's start by talking about a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. So what is the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset? Well, for starters, people that have a fixed mindset, they tend to believe that they cannot do much to change their intelligence and their abilities. So, for example, have you ever heard someone say, I'm just not a this type of person. I'm just not a technical type person. I'm just not a creative type person. Or that just won't work before they've even tried. So they're already dismissing it before they've even tried. So with a fixed mindset, there's a really underlying sense of defeat or being stuck before they've even started. So they can't get past the starting line. So my hope is that we can really challenge ourselves, that you can challenge yourself and honestly answer, is my inner coach, is it holding me back from reaching my potential? What is that little voice inside my head saying? What is my inner coach saying? Another type of attitude that really encourages a fixed mindset is if you already know everything. If you've ever met anyone that was a quote, know it all, then this is a fixed mindset. Another example. So adults and children alike who are close to listening to others' input and who are not open to hearing ideas are really stunting their own mental growth. Not to mention, this really is a negative impact when it comes to social connections and how this type of attitude can impact social connections if you have a know-it-all attitude. And parents, they may inadvertently cultivate this type of fixed mindset also when they praise their child indiscriminately and constantly throughout childhood. So this is when you earn a trophy or you earn a prize for just doing every single little thing. And I'm not suggesting that we don't praise our children, but rather as parents that we be more mindful of when and how much and what to praise to instill the right kind of motivation and the right kind of self-confidence in our children. So the big lesson learned from this is that a lack of mental flexibility can be your own worst enemy when it comes to preventing you from reaching your potential or even helping others to reach their potential. Now let's talk about a growth mindset. So on the other hand, when you have a growth mindset, you believe that your skills and your intelligence can be improved with effort and persistence. So instead of avoiding challenges, people with a growth mindset, they know how to persist through obstacles, and they often will thrive in the face of a challenge. So they are able to overcome, get past that starting line and go for it. They also have a level of internal intuition, and they can learn from criticism, and they seek out inspiration in others' success. So they're looking for others for inspiration, for success. They have an intuition and awareness of their own selves. So modern psychology recognizes how our belief systems about our own abilities and potential that fuels our behavior and it predicts our success. And much of this understanding, it comes from the work of a Stanford psychologist. Her name is Carol Dweck, and she is known for a book called Mindset, The New Psychology of Success. So I recommend you read it. I think it's a great read. As a clinician and as a coach, I find her research to be remarkable when it comes to really pondering why presence is more important than praise in teaching kids how to cultivate a healthy relationship with achievement, as well as how these mindsets are formed. So a lesson learned from this is really depending upon which mental framework you adopt as the parent, as the adult, as a teacher, or what has been instilled in a child at an early age. In terms of your children, this really significantly impacts your behavior, your relationship with success and failure in both personal and professional life. So it overarches into all aspects of your life. So the true test is to really take a moment to ask yourself, do you believe that you can get better at something by putting the effort, time, and energy? Do you believe that you can get better at something by putting in the effort, time, and energy? Another question, do you think about how you can work on your own shortcomings or flaws to become the best version of yourself? So are you aware of those? What can you do to improve? Have you ever told yourself that your clients or students, they're not good candidates for telehealth, for example, yet you have not pursued additional training or mentoring to improve your own competence and confidence with telehealth? Are you able to reflect upon your experiences and focus on the process and not just the outcome? So being able to focus on the process, how you were thinking, and not just the final product. In other words, the ability to change your mindset, it will take some self-reflection along with some inner work and a forward-thinking outlook. So as an occupational therapist with over 20 years of clinical experience, I always like to really anchor how I practice and how I learn and how I teach based upon the principles of neuroscience. And the good news for all of us is that recent advances in neuroscience have really shown us that the brain is truly malleable, and that this type of neuroplasticity and connectivity between neurons, it can change with experience. It can change with practice and the actions and the strategies that we take. So we are not stuck in a fixed mindset. We have control over how we can learn and grow, be happy, and be successful. So the lesson learned is that by changing your mindset from a fixed mindset to that of a growth mindset, you will be able to overcome any setbacks and how you face certain obstacles in a more productive way. So the key is a more productive way in what you can learn from those experiences. So this type of growth mindset, it's really applicable to all circumstances and situations. And it's a practice that we can teach our own children and our clients. But the first step is it has to start with us. Before we ask the question of how can we cultivate a growth mindset in our own children, or how can we cultivate a growth mindset in our students? So I have 5 tips on how to inspire a growth mindset in our kids. So tip number 1 is to encourage children to work through their challenges and teach them to persist even at the first signs of a struggle. In other words, don't be so quick to let them accept defeat. Part of this is setting them up for success. So as therapists, a really skilled therapist knows how to present a just right challenge. So not something that's too easy or something that's too hard. It just gives them the right amount of challenge to set them up for success. And this will help to mitigate the feelings of stopping before even trying. Another strategy is to be able to teach about an inner coach. So that little voice inside yourself, in other words, the self-talk. So if you're noticing that a child is maybe even saying things out loud or they're getting down on themselves, it's our opportunity to really focus on the positive. So, or really being able to say, you know what, I'm going to try it. I'm just going to try it once. Or you can quantify it too by saying, you know what, let's just try it twice. Or by saying, let me help you. Or also teaching them to be able to self-advocate by saying, hey, I need some help. And that can really help them go from feeling helpless to feeling empowered. So being able to instill in them an inner coach that's positive, hey, I can do this, or I'll try it. The second tip is to focus on the process of an activity or task and not just the results. So this really helps support your child's effort when they're trying a new activity. The next tip is to help them understand the value of hard work, effort, patience, and to set realistic expectations as a parent, as a teacher, to help them stick with activities even if they don't immediately excel. The next tip I have for you is to use social thinking strategies or behavior modification techniques, to use positive reinforcement, and really something that's called collaborative problem solving, where you're both coming together for a solution. And all of these strategies can really help curb low frustration tolerance. And finally, you want to be aware that you are not inadvertently nurturing your child's perfectionistic tendencies. So focus less on the mistakes, but rather on the lessons learned. It's really important that we don't cause undue stress and anxiety by making our perfectionistic tendencies overflow onto them. So to sum it up, the big lesson learned is that by teaching our kids and ourselves to adopt a growth mindset, it can help us change or prevent destructive thinking patterns. And from my experience as a parent and as a therapist, this mental framework of a growth mindset, it doesn't come naturally. It definitely takes some effort, some mindfulness, and some hard work. And it also takes some really specific teaching and guidance and coaching to really help cultivate a growth mindset, not only in ourselves, but also in our children. Cultivating and nurturing a growth mindset, it is a skill for life, and it will help our kids overcome obstacles, and it will really help them reach their fullest potential in all of their life areas. It'll help them to become happy, well-adjusted, and well-balanced adults. Now, it doesn't guarantee that, you'll be the best in everything, but it does instill a resilience that will help kids to continue to progress and to be able to cope more effectively, which will lead to a more grounded perspective and a really healthy self-esteem. So we all want our children and ourselves to be able to lead happy, fulfilling lives and to be able to help reach their potential. And we are all role models for our kids. So my challenge for you is to nurture a growth mindset in yourself first, and the children whom you love and the children whom you work with. So think about one word that can help you change your attitude and to grow your own intelligence and skills through mindful effort so that you can reach your potential and help your children reach theirs. So just think of one word. So rather than feeling overwhelmed with, oh my gosh, I have to change all these things, just think of one thing. It could be patience. It could be being focused. It could be being mindful or communication. So just think of one word. And the very first steps to cultivating a growth mindset are, like I said, instead of making a giant resolution, you can just think of one positive word or a phrase that will really help guide your actions while nurturing and encouraging a growth mindset. And take a moment to offer yourself some grace. Give yourself some credit for your resilience this past year especially. And you want to think about, what are the personal qualities that have got you through the tough times? So remember, you are strong, you're resilient, you have unique and special gifts that only you can offer. So I challenge you to think about the coming new year as a fresh start and really looking at challenges that come your way as opportunities for growth and insight into yourself. So what word will you choose? What one word or phrase will help you find a fresh perspective to inspire your growth mindset no matter what happens in the upcoming year? I would love to know. If you can adopt a more holistic, positive growth mindset, you will set yourself up for success for this year and for years to come. Your children, your clients, and your students, they will see this quality in you. And when you believe your brain can grow, you will behave differently. So once you've decided on a word for yourself, talk about it with your own kids or talk about with the students in your classroom. You can also check out the additional resources that I have left for you in the description for more resources if you'd like to learn more. So one of the big lessons learned from this is that when you focus on one positive word or phrase to guide your thoughts and your actions this year, you are much more likely to follow through. And once you've learned to embrace a growth mindset and to truly become your best self, you will be poised to help others, including our children, to become their best selves too.